Hello, my name is Clive Harris, and I'm a Senior Solutions Advisor at Rocket Software. Today I'll be talking about using IMS Performance Analyzer to report on application trace facility data collected by OMEGAMON, or IMS. IBM IMS Performance Analyzer complements OMEGAMON for IMS by reporting transaction and application level accounting statistics written to a logstream dataset by the Application Trace Facility. IMS Performance Analyzer then extracts data from the output logstream created by ATF into a sequential file using an IMS PA provided utility. Then, using the IMS Performance Analyzer ISPF, we can specify and generate several reports giving summary and detailed information on the ATF data collected by OMEGAMON for IMS. IMS Performance Analyzer ISPF interface can be started by executing the following command, or you can embed it within one of your current TSO ISPF menus. Once launched, you can use option 3 to generate and specify the data you required and the reports you require IMS Performance Analyzer to create. First of all, you need to select a number of options for the ATF report set. First of all, we specify the ATF global options by selecting option 1 and deciding how many print lines per page. We can specify the job name, and we can also decide whether we want to include exception criteria. Next, we can look at transaction transit reports. First of all, the list report. Again, we use option 1 to select it, and here we can provide a time range or interval between which we want to see the list data, as well as including or excluding objects. Likewise, we can produce a summary report, which in addition to giving you a list of what happens, it also gives some accumulated times for elapsed in CPU. Finally, we specify trace reports. There are 3 levels of trace report we can generate. An overview report, which gives us a summary of all the items that have been extracted during the time period. Secondly, more detail in trace option 2, which then gives us detail about the DLI calls that have been executed. And thirdly, trace level 3, which in addition to the levels 1 and 2, also gives you IO areas, segment search area, argument areas, and key feedback areas. We can also choose to include and monitor events. We can also use selection criteria to include or exclude items for reporting based on transaction code, user ID, program name, or IMS subsystem ID. All options completed, we can now return to select to run the reports. So we select option 4, and here we can specify the subsystem, the time period we're interested in. We can look at the JCL before we submit it, and we can also say where there are unresolved data sets, we issue an error message so we can correct them. And here you see we specified a reporting interval between the 1st of December and the 15th of December. Finish, we hit enter, and here we see the JCL generated. And there's an unresolved data set that we need to find out. So we do this by going to the extract job we ran earlier and finding the name of the output file and inserting this into the report job, then submitting that job for execution. We now check to see if the job has run successfully. It has, so we can now look at the output generated by IMS Performance Analyzer. Firstly, an overall report on what IMS PA did, giving us details of the parameters that we specified and the report files that have been generated. We can now look at the list report, which summarizes all the transactions that took place within the time period that ATF was collecting data. We then return and look at the summary report, which gives us the same information, but with some statistics about average and total elapsed and CPU time. Finally, we move on to the first trace level report, and this gives us, for each individual transaction, details about when it ran, user IDs, a PSV used, and then gives us a list of the DLI calls that were executed, and we then repeat this process for the subsequent transactions that have been captured in the ATF report. We now move to trace level 2, which gives us all of the information that we saw for trace level 1, but in addition, doesn't just give us the calls, but also the resources, the database, the segment that might have been that were accessed, and also gives us the activity, time the activities took. And again, we process through the different transaction schedulings to see the various DLI calls that were executed. If we get a barred return code, we also see those status codes returned as well, as we can see here. Finally, we turn to trace level 3, which gives us all of the detail from trace levels 1 and 2, but with additional information about segment search, arguments, key feedback areas, and I/O areas. And here we can see the data returned for the different calls, both in hex and in ordinary characters. And for this particular transaction, it will show for every call made, insert, update, delete, the I/O areas, the segment search arguments used. Thank you for watching.